In 1967, the year Canada celebrated its 100th birthday, Winnipeg hosted athletes and guests from all across the Western Hemisphere who converged on the city in midsummer to attend the 5th Pan American Games.
When I was still living back home on the First Nations, there was no such thing as competition. No athletics, no programs. There was nothing.
Growing up as a kid, that we spent a lot of time on the river, the lake, fishing, and certainly a lot of time in the bush, hunting rabbits, stuff like that.
On the flag barriers. So this
Was that on the first day?
Yeah, when we first met, remember they took us and we spent a night at the Sonaboya? But that evening we were out there drilling, like how are we supposed to come in, like two runners to a flag and then a torch barriers.
No, there was 4 runners to a flag.
Yeah, 4 runners. Oh yeah, 4 runners to
There
a
was
flag.
2 flags, remember?
And then the torch barriers, how we were supposed to come.
Yeah.
We were drilling.
I'm going to have to go to a hypnotist and try to recall some of these memories because, man, I don't remember
A lot of
anything.
stuff I don't remember, right?
Wow.
But we were drilling.
The road that they chose for us to run was an ancient path that our people had ran, you know, for thousands of years as they related to, you know, to each other. And it's interesting that, you know, it was the runners that would be used to carry the messages from one community to the other.
Coming from the bush and going to high school, it was a total different thing for me.
During my junior high and senior at Bertle, I participated in a lot of competitions, high schools here in Winnipeg.
Our high school was noted for having track and field runners, long distance runners, and our phys teacher entered us to come in and compete in indoor track meets.
Assiniboia School had good athletes. We were all good athletes then. There were lots of sports programs, hockey, football, basketball, volleyball, track and field. It was all there. That's why I enjoyed it there.
One of the supervisors came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be part of a team that was running a torch relay, starting in the States and coming back to Canada for opening day of the Pan American Games.
There was a letter that came in to participate in the run. I had to submit my resume at that time to show that I was interested in running.
I remember them approaching me and they wanted to see us run. So they took us for a run. And we ran maybe a couple miles. And that was it.
When you're young, you know, when you get that kind of invitation, it's very, very overwhelming, you know, because your mind goes into a race of, you know, how overwhelming that it is, first of all. And I'd never been out of the community, you know, other than, you know, going to school locally.
What I do remember is that it was a very nice day, bright, sunny, cloudless, warm, and 3 vehicles pulled up, all white, 1 station wagon, 2 convertibles.
For myself personally, you know, there was a lot of firsts that I encountered. Like first time ever in a convertible, first time ever in a motel, first time ever with air conditioning, you know, all of that. First time ever seeing American Girls, you know, all that stuff. There was a lot of firsts for me.
Tell them that story on the first day when you came in with improper clothing.
Oh, you want me to
helped-
tell it?
yeah.
You're the one that played that
We
trick on
helped
me.
you.
You tell it.
We helped you that day.
So I went and dressed. I put on a silk shorts. So he comes along. No, he says, you don't wear that till we go to Winnipeg. Go and change. Go and change. You have to wear cotton. I said, there's nowhere to change. Hey, he said, I have an idea. I called you guys. Let's stand around him while he changed. Boy, no sooner did I take off my shorts, take off, you guys. So yeah, I was looking for my silk shorts and my cotton shorts. You know, I believe him, yet I was already 2 days he was playing tricks on me. I still fell for that one.
I remember the hotel. It was fabulous. It was like something from a fairy tale.
Never stayed in a hotel in my life before. This was the first time I ever stayed in a hotel motel. There was a TV there. We never had a TV, so I was felt strange. You know, there was white sheets. You know, I didn't want to go to bed because I didn't want to dirty the white sheets, because that's what we were called in the residential school prior to Assiniboia. We were dirty, filthy Indians. You know, that's the description. We were wild. They called us savage. That was their favorite name.
When we got to Minneapolis, to the hotel, I looked outside the window and there was this riot going on. I used to wonder how come we had bodyguards in Detroit Lake, but then we got to Minneapolis, you know, there was that riot, that hotel we were in. That night there was a big riot, you know, burning tires and vehicles right in front of our hotel, and not realizing what was going on. And that next morning, like when we came out, you know, it must have been a leader, and then he says, I didn't know they're using native runners for this torch run. And then he says, you people have the same problems in Canada as we do here in the States, because that time Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali got stripped of his heavyweight title. He refused to go and fight in Vietnam, so they stripped him. And the leader, his words were, if there were white people running this torch, we weren't going to let it go through. But since you natives have the same problem in Canada, we're letting you guys through. Well, it's just like they just parted, and the senator, the mayor, and the governors, they traveled with us to the legislative building, the government building. And the flame came in at night before. So they took that flame there, and they took that flame and lit our torch. And when we came down the steps and we started running, they ran with us for I don't know how far. And this is where it dawned on me, did you know this? After that, we never had no bodyguards.
I also remember that noon hour I ate a little too much French fries, I guess. And I wanted to get sick. I wasn't feeling good.
How about when we told him, don't eat too much, Bill?
Oh, I remember that time.
You're eating too much, Bill. We got to run today. And he kept eating all those fries,
noon hour.
burgers.
Noon hour, I overindulged, and then later on, when I started running, I started to get sick, and you know, it had to be a number 2. It had to be a number 2. No place, because it's all prairie, yeah. So that state trooper, there was a little town about 5 miles ahead of us. So he put me in a police car. Big Cherry started going round and round, and he rushed me to that little town. I ate too much at noon hour. Yeah.
What I remember, it was pouring rain that day. It was raining hard. Even the wind was blowing hard as well. And the team had to run through that. And from St. Norbert to the stadium would be a lot of miles in bad weather.
The significant part of the run, I feel, was the fire that they could never put out, even when it was raining, that flame stayed on. And many years later, I realized the significance of fire, and people like Charlie and I that are very connected to ceremony, you know, that fire is central, eh? Fire is everything in our culture and our ceremonies. But when we were running down Portage Avenue, there was a part that was sunny.
Sunny all the
And
way.
then we hit you know, near the stadium, and it was just pouring. Then when I got to, you know, to the entrance, and then I remember my father, he was the chief of the reserve, and he was on the side, you know, watching and witnessing what was happening. And Phil Fontaine was the band manager of Sagging, and he was also standing there. And then they were waiting for us to go in.
Yeah.
But of course that never happened, and the flame was passed.
Getting into the last part of this torch run, actually being in the stadium and doing what we did, there was really no sense of accomplishment or even excitement.
We did not finish our journey because of the fact that the torch was handed to somebody else that did not participate.
The athlete that took the torch was a white athlete. As I heard, he was just a dedicated athlete who represented the spirit of Canadian athletics kind of thing. And that he had been selected by some process to be the one to take the torch into the stadium and light the cauldron.
And then I asked an elder one time, why was it raining so much that day? And then that elder said, because the ancestors were crying because you were not going to finish your journey. The 500 miles that you were asked to do, you were not able to complete it. Even though that there was, you know, there was some recognition given. But what I remember that we were taken out of there, you know, and taken into Pancake House. And then we were watching on TV as the opening was happening. And all of a sudden we were taken away from each other, and we didn't see each other again.
Our journey, our circle was incomplete.
In 1967, the First Nations runners who carried the torch as part of the ceremonies were actually stopped outside the entrance of the stadium and shuffled off to a nearby restaurant. 32 years later, it is being done properly.
When we were invited in 1999, you know, to come back and to finish what was considered the final part of our journey, which was to make it into the stadium, to bring the flame into the stadium. And we, of course, were very excited about that opportunity.
The torch runners from the 1967 Pan American Games. Dave Crishane Jr., torchbearer, Charles Bittern, and Charlie Nelson.
But we had a condition to participate, and the condition was that we would bring the flame into the stadium, providing that we pass it on to a young Aboriginal athlete.
And now receiving the torch is Ida Whitford.
That's where the circle finished, the Pan American Circle for us.
When we came into the stadium in those canoes, something happened again that I'm sure you guys realize that it was so calm. But the moment that we entered into that stadium that was packed, there was this incredible wind that came and circled inside that stadium, and everything was flying around. I asked an elder again, what was that about? What kind of a sign was that? And what the elder said was that the ancestors were happy that we were able to complete our journey.
I'm glad I was part of it. I'm glad I ran. I'm glad I met the other athletes. I'm proud that I was part of that event.
You know, for me being here today, I don't know how I felt when I come driving in the parking lot and same old friends of mine, and you know, happy to see them. Like, we did a job and we did it, but we also had obstacles, but we didn't give up. we kept on going, right up to now. Like we're old already, we're aged. But in the meantime, there's still a spark in us to pass on a message to young people that they can do it.
When I look back on it, now I'm thinking, yeah, it was something special.
It's a great honor that was given to me and asked of me if I would run.
Actually turned out to be a very lucky break. It was more than just fun for a few days. It's turned out to be fun for about 50 years.
The journey that we started, you know, it's been an incredible, beautiful journey. And I thank the Creator that we were given this opportunity to be recognized as front runners.
Children's children I'm thinking of. They've got to know they can rise above 100 years of quiet fear and press for the mark. Got to run as one now, it's begun, and feel the beat of a different drum and close our eyes and give our thanks to the Spirit up above. Run as one now, it's begun, and feel the beat of a different drum and close our eyes and give our thanks to the Spirit up above.